We love to eat dill pickles in our house, and I especially love Clausen pickles, but here is how I make my very own refrigerator pickles, and they taste just as good. Last year we had an abundance of cucumbers growing, and I really like Clausen pickles, and I like that crispy crunch of the pickles that have not been heated up. So I started looking around for recipes, and then I ended up finding a packet mix that works so great. And all you do is you kind of make the brine with the packet mix, and then you cut up your pickles or your cucumbers and you pour it, you let it cool down, and then you pour it over the pickles and just make sure they're covered. Seal them up in a canning jar, and I let them sit about 3 weeks in the fridge, and then they are amazing, and it makes a great kosher dill pickle. And so I highly recommend it. I find these packets, first I found them on Amazon, and then I ended up realizing that Walmart usually carries them. So that's where I get them. The name is by Mrs. Wages, and the packet that I specifically like to use is the kosher dill pickle packet, and it's for quick process pickle mix. And really all you need is that and white vinegar and water, and then of course whatever cucumbers you're going to use, and it is absolutely perfect. So like I said, I'm just mixing up the brine, and then I will let that cool down completely, and while that's cooling I will go ahead and chop up all of my cucumbers and get them ready and get a jar ready. I'm just making one jar because I found these amazing Persian cucumbers, and I just knew it'd make one great jar. So I'm going to go ahead and chop all those up. And when you're chopping your pickles, you can decide if you want long strips. These are just going to be in halves. Sometimes I do quartered, sometimes I do little sandwich rounds. It just really depends on how many pickles I have and how many jars I want to make up. I knew that this was only enough really for one large quart-size canning jar, so I'm just cutting the ends off and cutting them in half. And the reason you want to cut the ends off is because since we're doing refrigerator pickles, we want all of the good brine to get through the entire pickle and not have to fight its way in. A lot of times people don't cut the ends off, but this is just the method I like to do, and it seems to work really well. And it usually takes, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks for the pickles to really absorb the brine. You can test them earlier if you want to, in a week, but that's truly the time frame that I think works the best. You want to be sure you're using a clean jar. I scrub these really well. I sterilize them with boiling hot water, and then I am just packing the pickles in there. I'm laying the slices in. I kind of want them to all be about the same length, so every now and then if one's too long or something, I will set it aside, and then I will cut the ends off of it. That little space at the top, not all the way up where the rings go, but the space above the pickles, there's usually about an inch of space, and I'll put little clippings in that part, and those will be my snack tester pickles to make sure they taste good. As you can see, sometimes it's kind of like a game of Tetris. You really have to shift them around and figure out how to shove them in there. I really want them put in tightly because as they do absorb the brine, they sort of shift, and that water or the liquid makes them move around a bit. So as tightly packed as possible is the best idea. And then those little pieces that I cut off to make the pickle shorter, those just go on top. So now I had put a cap on just because I had to wait a little bit longer for my brine to cool off. I don't want to add hot brine to these because I don't want to make them mushy. So it's been cooling on the stove, and I always put it over like a bowl or something in case I spill. And I am just ladling the brine in, and I want to completely cover it And I won't go to the very tip top. I still try to leave like at least a ½ inch headspace up in the rings, but because I'm not actually pressure canning these or water bath canning these, that true inch headspace is not as important. Just want to make sure that whatever cucumbers you have in there are completely covered, and then you're just going to put your lid on, and it's going to go in the refrigerator 2 to 3 weeks. Give it a check, and then they should be ready. So I hope you enjoy this. If you have any questions or comments, just put them down below, and I thank you so much for watching, and I hope you try to make your own homemade cold pickles. They taste just like Clausen. Have a great day.